Let's get this party started. So, who's enjoying the conference so far? Digging it, digging it. Yeah, there's been a lot of great stuff. Hopefully, I won't disappoint. So, as you can see, my name's Tim Conley, and we're going to talk about what it's like to have a seven-figure B2B professional service and survive it. So this is a quote from one of my clients, Adam, and he said, "I thought it was going to get easier." He's a multimillionaire. Not easy. Guess what? You start building a bigger and bigger company, you have bigger and bigger problems. So all the stuff that he went through in those startup years where he thought, oh my God, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Well, once he started making millions of dollars a year, he realized those things weren't the hardest things he had ever done in his life. And that's not to discourage you from going and growing and succeeding as a seven-figure B2B professional service. It's actually to let you know that the growth that you have to go through to continue to succeed stays. You must always be working to succeed. Success goes away if you stop working. If you stop growing, you stop taking on harder and harder problems, your success will go away. And we're going to talk about making sure that that doesn't happen. So why me? So I realized something, that even though I've been a part of the DC before it actually existed, most people don't even know who I am anymore, because I don't even know most of the DCers anymore. So I wanted to give a little introduction as to why me? Why am I giving this particular talk? So I do a lot of work with B2B companies. And about 60% of my clientele are professional services. Everything from dev to digital marketing agencies, the works. So I've been helping these kind of businesses for nearly 2 decades. And so here's just a couple of bullet points of what I've just done in the last couple of months. So a $240,000 a month agency, who would like to have one of those, right? Almost shut their doors. They had the best month that they had ever had. $240,000 came in the door. Guess what? More than $240,000 went out the door. And everybody's thinking, oh, it's an agency. It should be like super profitable. Well, if you don't do what I'm about to tell you to do, the money just disappears. It goes away. Doesn't matter how good you are at selling, you will never outrun your expenses if you don't get control of them. So the other is, one of the things that all my clients complain about, because they're early stage entrepreneurs, they're in the low millions, and they complain about having leadership in their company. So one of the things my company does is actually take employees and turn them into leaders inside a company, so that the entrepreneur can start growing beyond the skill set that got them there. And the other, another one that I recently did, I invested in a digital marketing agency, and we doubled. It was insane. We just came in, made a few tweaks, the stuff I'm going to talk about, doubled revenue, and got net income up to 40% of revenue. It's pretty nice. These are keys that I see over and over and over again in all sorts of B2B companies. And I'm going to go through this, but what I want you to pay attention to is team first, systemization second, and know your numbers. In every category that I'm going to talk about, you need to ask yourself, well, what do I need to do to put my team first in this category? What do I need to do to systemize after that to help my team? And then how do I know those numbers, and then how does my team know those numbers? And one of the things the reason I wanted to highlight these is, especially in this particular crowd, there is sort of I don't know, maybe a cult of let's systemize. Let's systemize, and then we'll go out and get a team. Like, that is ass backwards. You do not want to do that. You want to get a team, really good people. Really good people build really good companies. Systems just keep them running. So if you go about building a company where it's, I'm going to do the systems first, you're going to grow slow, you're going to have all kinds of headaches, And then you're going to have a bunch of people that you've hired along the way that are not a good cultural fit. You're going to wake up one day and go, who are these people and why aren't they working? So team first, what does that even mean? Hire for impact. Who here hired a VA as one of your first hires? Right? And it's told you should do this. This is good advice, is to go hire somebody who's going to take over menial tasks. I tell all my clients, even startups, I tell them, do not do this. This is a terrible, terrible idea. Hire for impact. Hire someone who can come in and move the needle. Get somebody who can bring impact into your business, who can come in and transform the department in which they're working. Create systems, create initiatives, move things forward on their own, not to be a little machine who takes over some of your least desirable activities so that you personally can do a tiny bit more productivity. Because at some point, your productivity drops off. Only 24 hours in the day. You cannot achieve massive success off of your personal productivity. So then that brings me to the next part. Lead, then manage. So a lot of people who go with the systems first idea have to manage tasks. They are spending all their time figuring out, well, what are my people doing, and not spending time guiding them as to where they need to go. So we need to focus on their roles and responsibilities. What are your roles and responsibilities to do your job, and here's where I'm going to take us. I'm going to lead us here. I'm going to take us to the promised land. And if you know what you're doing and you truly have a strong vision of what that promised land is, those people that you hired for impact are going to follow you there. And they're going to work their asses off to help you, because they see that vision too. They get excited to come to work. They're not sitting there managing some menial task that they do over and over and over and over again because you won't do a modicum of automation, right? So next thing is culture czar. I just thought that was kind of cool. I have no idea what czars actually ever did, but they sounded mean. So I believe in being ruthlessly compassionate when it comes to culture. And what we do is, in my companies and my client companies, we go through and we fire people who are not a cultural fit, even when it hurts. So I've seen a lot of people say, oh, I'll fire that person if and when I find a replacement. I fire before I have a replacement. As soon as I understand someone's not a fit, they're gone. And I do it nicely, compassionately, because everybody in the company needs to know culture comes first. We don't do buy-in. We never do buy-in. You buy into the culture, and that's it. You buy into the culture, not a particular project, not something that you feel fuzzy about. No, you buy into the culture or you're gone. So as soon as you find somebody who's not a cultural fit in your company, out the door they go. And so I want you to pay attention to these things. This is just the prelude to what I'm about to talk about, because this thinking hits everything beyond this. Systemization second. Your processes suck. Suck. Every one of them. Every one of those processes that you spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours making personally, not your team making them, but you made them personally, every one of those things suck. All of them that you made when you were under $1 million in revenue, all of them suck. The people, some of those processes that you've made after you pass that 7-figure mark, oh, those suck too. But the cool thing is, if you understand that your processes are never going to be perfect, you keep improving them. But here's the really important part about those processes sucking, is that you can design your systems to create DNA in your company. So whenever we hire a contractor to come in and do work in any one of our companies, what we do is make sure that we transfer that DNA into the company. All contractors transfer the DNA. their knowledge, their processes, everything they do, we pay them for it, they transfer it into our company. The reason we do this is that, well, odds are that contractor is going to disappear on us one day. How many people have had a contractor just not ever respond again? Yeah, like all of us, right? They just disappear. So we have to make sure that if we're paying somebody who's actually an expert, they are bringing real value to our company, that value just doesn't disappear in the future. We want to get their black box, crack it open, and install it into our company. And we do this including with all of our people. So all of our systems are designed not to have a repeatable process, which everybody's really focused on, but our processes are built to extract DNA and to create cultural DNA. We want knowledge, we want experience, we want that magic that comes from great people working together. We want that to be installed through our systems. So your systems will either nurture it or they'll hinder it. So although I've seen way too many people who built these processes where they have 50 people doing menial labor, just following remote these SOPs that are just the same thing every day. It's like that's machine work. You're turning a human being, a creative human being, into a machine. That's bullshit. You get rid of any process in your company that treats a human like a machine. Get a fucking machine, right? That's what machines are for. Humans are for creativity. Humans are for that magic. The magic that makes coming to work great. The stuff that we love as entrepreneurs, your people need to love too. So look at your systems. Are your systems making life better for your people, for your customers, for you, for every employee, your contractors, your vendors? Do your systems make their lives better? If not, revamp them because they probably suck. Know your numbers. Everybody who's heard know your numbers? All of us, right? All of us know your numbers. Who here actually knows what that means? A couple people, right? Well, you better know what that means, Wayne, right? Bean Ninjas better knows what numbers mean. So, know your numbers is about prediction. Entrepreneurs have to predict the future with their numbers. If you are just looking at your numbers, you look at your cash flow statement, your balance sheet, your profit and loss statement, and you go, oh, that was nice. We had a good month last month, or we had a good quarter the last quarter. And then you file it away and then just wait for the next one next month and say the same thing, or go, oh shit, this one sucks, right? What you need to be able to do is when you are collecting these numbers, so your accountant, your bookkeeper, they're focused on record keeping. They are tracking the past mostly due to compliance issues. But what you need is to have the ability to look at your numbers and predict trends. When do you hire? When can you afford to hire? Can you predict that in your business by looking at your numbers? If you can't, you do not know your numbers. That's what knowing your numbers actually means. If you can look at them and say, oh, I need to hire here, I need to invest in this, I need to cut expenses, I know when cash flow is going to turn negative because we're investing heavily into our growth, and at this particular stage we're going to go cash flow negative. I understand when that's going to happen, and that's when we're going to put the brakes on it. If you can't make those predictions, then you do not know your numbers. So the next is get KPIs face to face. And I know there's a lot of people in here who have remote teams. So I'm not being literal, but open up Zoom or something and have a conversation with the person who's giving you those KPIs. Cultures are. We don't give a shit about the actual KPI. What we care about is the work being done. That's what we really care about. What are the results that people are doing, and are they excited about making them? How many people how many of your people are coming to you with the KPIs and it's a chore? They're not excited to sit there and talk to you about what they've accomplished and what they're going to accomplish. They're like, oh, here's your report. Or, hey, that report, it was due 3 hours ago. Where's my report? Where's my report? I know a lot of people go through that one. The reason you're not getting that report is because you're not having that meeting face to face. You're not building culture. KPIs build culture, not just building a record-keeping machine. So then the other is, does your team actually understand the numbers themselves? What number, and I'm not talking about having to go open book management and all that stuff, which I don't fully agree with. I'm talking about, do they understand what activities that they do on a daily basis that contribute to the numbers of the company? Do they actually comprehend it? Can they tell you, yes, I need to do this other thing to hit those numbers that you're asking about, not follow your instructions, because they understand the numbers? Do they? That's what I'm talking about, knowing your numbers. So now, here's the actual talk. So with that prelude, try to keep that in mind. I know I hit you with a lot, but try to keep that in mind about you need to have those things in each of these areas. So this is the first of 10 key areas that I work with my clients. I really wanted to be able to give you more, but I just kept cutting and cutting and cutting because the talk went longer and longer and longer. So I'm going to tease you a little bit and give you this stuff afterwards. So we're going to talk about demand generation, prospect nurturing, and the buying event. These are the most sexiest things in a business. This is the stuff that everybody always asks about. Here's the other parts of the survival manual. You'll be able to get these slides and everything, so don't worry about it. But there's the money-making side of business, and then there's the money-keeping side of business. The stuff that I focus on the most with my clients is the money-keeping. I help them actually make more money by keeping their money. So as you can see, there's 5 sides. There's 5 categories in each of these things. Demand generation, prospect nurturing, the buying event, one of my favorite things, delivery, experience, ascension, retention, talent, operations, money, and leadership. Okay? You can get all those things and you'll find out later how. So demand generation. Who knows what this means? Demand generation. Anyone heard that phrase? Right? Do you consider it to be lead gen? Great, create lead, get leads and, right, a few nods. Okay, I used demand generation instead of branding. I use this instead of getting customers. I use this phrase because I don't want you to have a preconceived notion as to what it's about. And this is something that you should look at when you're dealing with your own clientele. One of the things we did in a company I invested in, Contractor Dynamics, and I'm going to reference them over and over again, is we started using a phrase that I made up years ago called brand response marketing. So when we started talking to our customer base, and we said branding, they go, "Oh, so you're going to make us a logo, right?" Like, no, we don't make logos. We build your brand. Oh, so if it's not a logo, what is that, right? So they had this preconceived notion, but as soon as we made up a name, we were able to break through those preconceived notions. So number one question that I always get, and this is what demand generation really is how do I get more clients or more customers? I've done surveys to my list, my private Facebook group for entrepreneurs. I ask them, I do polls inside there. The number one thing they always want to know is, how do I get more customers? How do I do that? It's so hard, I don't know how. But guess what? Google says there are 1.19 billion answers to that question, right? And 1.1899999 of them are identical. You all know how to get more customers. You just choose not to do it. You choose not to do the things that you read a million blog posts, you took a dozen courses, you did a whole bunch of stuff, and they were all identical. They told you the exact same things over and over and over again. John Logar, love the guy. He comes in and he tells people, do this step, this step, this step, and this step, and you'll make a lot of money. Math works every single time if you just do those steps. And no one does it. No one. And you can go on and find a blog post that'll tell you the exact same steps that John tells you in those other talks. You don't do it. Demand generation is about just doing what you already know and building a brand around it. So, build your brand. This is how you succeed as a seven-figure agency. Seven-figure B2B professional services of any kind. Build your brand. And the way that we've been doing it, and I've been doing this with my client companies and the companies that I invest in, we've been working on social media. Because why? Social media is the state of marketing. Everything else is subordinate. The internet changed. It changed actually 10 years ago. It changed, and we all kept doing lead gen. We all kept sending cold emails. We all kept cold calling. We all kept doing all these things that the prospect was like, oh, who are you? Why are you talking to me? The sale was hard. Everything about the sales process was hard. The finding of clients, the getting them onto the phone was hard. Talking to them and getting them to even listen to you, it was hard. Why? Because we just didn't take any time to give a shit about our company and build a brand around it. Building a brand, a result story, that's all what it's about, right? So building a brand, you need to be able to convey your story to people so that they can go, yes, you are the person I must do business with. They seek you out. So with Contractor Dynamics, we implemented this, and Joe, the founder of the company, he was dealing with a lot of people who complained about the price of his service, which was dirt cheap. They were complaining about it. Why? Because he was attracting what I call Jim with a hammer. Jim had a small crew of roofers or carpenters or plumbers or whatever it was. He had a small crew, and all he wanted was leads. I want cheap leads. That's all I want. And so Joe was having to go through and say, oh, here's why you got to use marketing, and you should really use me and stuff. It'd be really nice, right? And everything was really hard. So we started the strategy of creating our positioning, creating our brand, this Contractor Dynamics brand. And I had this thesis that if we implemented social media marketing, we really started conveying our story to our market, we would get the type of clients that we wanted to contact us. And we went from having companies that were under 5 million, and in construction, that's a really tiny company, 5 million in revenue and down, to having 20 million, 50 million, and we just are working on a deal right now with a $500 million a year company in the construction industry. And they found us from a social media video on Instagram. They said, oh, we like what you guys are talking about. Can we fly out to New Jersey to your office and have a meeting? Because we want you to do this for all of the contractors who use our products. We want you to do this for them, and we want you to do it for us. Because we've been trying to get this whole YouTube thing going and these other things going, and like no one watches any of our videos, but we see yours and they're cool. We want that. Can you do that for us, right? How many here has had a $500 million a year company beg you to do work for them? That's the power of branding. That's why social media is marketing today. So how do you do it? You got to spend money. Oh, but SEO, that's really nice. Well, yeah, it's ditch digging. Do a bunch of labor. Do SEO. If you want to actually succeed, you're going to have to spend money. All that content you're creating, you're on this hamster wheel of content creation, and you do, and I'll talk about volume in a second, you do have to be on a machine of creating content. But the part that actually matters is where do you target those people and spend the money to get it in front of them. And that's how that company that does $500 million a year saw us. We spent money. We made a post, a little video post, and it was a topic that they cared about, and we spent money to get it in front of them. over and over and over again. And we spend, it's an insane, seriously insane amount of money, about $150 a month. $150 a month to get our content in front of decision makers in all those different companies that we want to ask us to do work for them. So spend money to make some money. It's not a lot, especially with Instagram. It's insane. If your market happens to be on Instagram, you spend a small amount of money, you will get it in front of decision makers. We're about to move this same strategy over into LinkedIn. I think we'll kill it, but I didn't want to talk about it here because I'm not quite sure yet, but I believe once we take these exact same practices that we've been doing on Facebook and Instagram over into LinkedIn, I have a strong intuition that it's going to kill it. So, volume. Volume before strategy. If you are not producing enough volume for the internet, it doesn't really matter. You will not build a brand. You will not build a brand in today's world if you are not producing enough volume. The reason is there's about 4,000 other ads, commercial messages that your audience is going to see to your one. And then that's just the commercial messages. What about all their friends that are posting? What about all those just influencers or Instagram models that they follow, right? All these randoms that they follow in their day, all the interruptions that they get from things that they ostensibly care about. Those things interrupt their day. It's the machine that Facebook, Instagram, and all the other social media things try to do, is to interrupt them with all these different things just to keep the eyeballs there, right? So you have to compete against all that. You're not competing against just your competitors. You're competing against every form of attention-grabbing material on the planet. That's what you're competing against. So you have to develop a volume strategy. What we've done is, and it's not really that complicated. For a 7-figure business, we have one employee at Contractor Dynamics plus the founder who stands in front of literally a phone, just like I'm doing right now, and he says a few words, and then one person goes and edits that video, and we turn it into a longer video for YouTube, a video for Facebook, about a 3 to 5 minute video, and then we cut that over onto Instagram down to 60 seconds. And then we make even shorter ones. Actually, we chop a 2-minute video into 15-second increments and put that into a story. And then we promote all these things. And we promote them to our targeted audience. That's the machine. And we do it over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't take a complicated system to produce volume. Eventually, you'll need to grow beyond a few $1 million and build a really strong brand that competes with $50 million and $100 million a year companies. You will need to put together a more substantial volume content creation machine. But that is the part about building a brand today. So social media is marketing. So these are just some of the things. I just wanted to show you just a few things on our Instagram. We are focused heavily on the culture of our company as our marketing. Our biggest marketing pitch is, hey, we like coming to work. We like working with contractors. We love the construction industry. And how do you know this? Look at the little video. Look at us drinking beer as a team. Look at us doing these different things inside the office. And then we have interspersed in that some commercial messages that are disguised as education. And we just produce this on a regular basis. So you can go check out Contractor Dynamics if you want to follow them and see some of the output of what this machine looks like. But what we're doing is, with the money, is we're just buying reach into our targeted audience, and then the volume that we're doing is we're trying to refine a process. We don't have it figured out yet. That's the cool part. We don't know what the fuck we're doing, right? We're just doing this machine that I had this thesis on. We started doing it, and it started working. I thought this would work because I started looking at the internet, and I said, this is where the internet is today. Let's give it a shot. And we started getting the types of people that we wanted to ask us. Like, I really want to emphasize that. Ask you, please come do work for us. Like, how easy is a sales process when the person just says, come. I just want you today. Just start working on our stuff. Do you think you get to name a price? Like, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can do that. Here's the price. Oh, that's a little steep. Well, you're the one who contacted us. You really wanted our stuff, right? Well, that's our price. Well, okay, right? We'll do it. Here's the money, and let's get going, right? So this is the thing that we're trying to put together. And this is the real thesis here. Your competition for attention is so strong. If you want to build a brand, if you really want a strong brand, you have to outcompete on attention from everyone else. So the thing that works today, try your best to kill it. Try to outdo it. Some of it's going to suck. Most of it's going to suck. But some of them is going to catch. Some of it's going to really resonate with your market, and they're going to say, yes, I want to give you money. So if you're not trying to kill your content, be better tomorrow than you were today, you will eventually be killed by your competition. It's just the reality. So prospect nurturing. We all suck at this. I'm terrible. Straight up, I personally am terrible at prospect nurturing. This is a part where 80% of your money sits. 80% of all the money that you are not making in your company sits in prospect nurturing. Over and over and over again, you're not getting it because you're not actually treating your prospect like a human being. You're treating them like a lead. Oh, I got a lead. Or even worse, I got a subscriber to my email list. Like, that's stupid. That's a human being on the other side who says, I am interested in what you're doing. I would like to know more. And you're treating them like, just one more subscriber to my email list. I'm not actually giving any real interest into solving the problem that they're interested in solving. So I have a philosophy. I learned this from a good friend of mine, Joe Polish. He had this phrase called sift, sort, and screen. And this other phrase, little hinges swing big doors, heard this in a cassette tape from Dan Kennedy at the beginning of my career that changed everything that I thought about doing services. So little hinges, a handful of clients, swing really big doors, big bank accounts. So what we want to do with all this work of building a brand is sift, sort, and screen until we get down to the most perfect person for our business. That way, we can make a significant amount of money for just a handful of clients. Volume gives you a terrible lifestyle. Volume in the B2B professional services wears out your team. Volume is a tough business to be in. So we want to go down this far. So the nurture funnel. Why your nurturing funnel sucks is that you listen to bloggers who blogged about blogging, turn around and blog about business. Because they didn't know shit about business. They knew how to blog. They knew how to be on this hamster wheel of content creation. And so their solution to creating a successful business is blog for 2 years and maybe one day you'll make money. That's not a thesis that you can actually test. Because 2 years later, well, what kind of variables have changed in that 2-year period? Survivor bias. So they were telling people, just make content, just make email, just write an email. Who's heard the advice of do a daily email? Do a daily email, right? Just shove that stuff in front of them. Well, the problem is that with this advice, there's no context. You're not providing any context to this human being on the other side. You're just taking a volume approach to somebody who's already raised their hand who said, I'm interested. The volume approach is just in the branding. But once you've got them, now we need to segment them and sift, sort, and screen them into what are their interests? What do they care about? What do they think? What do they want solved? We have an idea, but if all we're doing is hammering them with more content after we've gotten them, we personally are not learning anything about them. You can't nurture somebody if you don't know who they are. You cannot connect with them emotionally if you do not know who they are. So we need to manufacture interactions to learn who they are. So if you're going to put out emails, well, get them to respond back. Try to get them into a spot where you're communicating with them one-on-one. Get them to show some form of their identity. We need to go from no identity, no idea who they are, to being acquaintances at best, maybe even friends, being able to actually understand them. And then we compile a dossier. This is old school, like even before my time. This is old school. You actually use your CRM to find out what their birth date is. They got kids? Got kids? What are their names? How old are they? Married? Divorced? What kind of information can we find out? Create a dossier from them. Not just, do you want my company to solve your marketing problem or your IT problem, but who are they as a human being? Create that dossier. So when you're sift sorting and screening, you get more and more information over time, and you use that information to actually deliver what they desire. They will give you money for it. Your interactions have to be relevant. This is something that why I complain about just putting out content after somebody has shown interest, is that most of your content is irrelevant to where they're at in life. They came in, they wanted a little bit of information, and then you just started hammering them with a bunch of random information. Yeah, they have you have no idea what they desire, so you create irrelevant interactions. What we want are meaningful interactions. If you can get somebody on a phone call, if you can get somebody on Zoom so you can do a video call, great, have that interaction. Even better, go see them face to face. We've been doing a lot of this with construction companies because I told Joe, you're 2 hours drive away from billions of dollars in business. Right there, New York City's right next to us. Drive there. And he started driving, and people were like, yes, we'll take your meeting. We love talking to you face to face. We've started having our clients actually fly out to New Jersey and sit in our office together, and we build strategies for them. At first, we weren't charging for it. Now we charge $5,000 for a day to come sit in the office and get us to work on your business, which they're already paying us for those services anyways, but they come in and pay for that additional connection, that human connection. They pay for it. People are desperate for human connection, especially in this internet age where we're all pushing our customers off at arm's length. We're trying to keep them away. I'm trying to pull them all in. I want to hug them all. I want to get really in there, nice and tight. Not a bro hug either, like a real one. So an interaction can be, if you know their birthday, hey, happy birthday. Not that Facebook bullshit, but like a real happy birthday, send a card, send a gift, like a real happy birthday. That's a good interaction. It can be something like, hey, you know that marketing study that I mentioned in that conversation we had the other day? Oh, I found it. Here, I just wanted to send it to you. It could be something boring, like a marketing study, or it could be something very personal, like a birthday, maybe the birthday of their child. Like, hey, I know little Timmy, he's had his birthday. Hey, that's awesome. Or he had a great. I saw that the little news story about his little league team just won the championships. Congratulations. Like real meaning, real people connections. So you have to take the time to do this. There's too many people in B2B professional services that want to be all productized. Oh, it's the holy grail of productized service. I want to be productized because I don't want to deal with those human beings. I just want to treat it like a SaaS product, so they just click a button and give me money. And then I never deal with them. And that's why your business sucks. That's why you're struggling, is because you do not care about the human beings on the other side of that transaction. So the buying event. Who here has ever stood in line to buy an Apple product? Anyone do that? I knew there had to be one, right? A buying event. Anybody know about sneaker culture? Those kids are insane. They'll spend days waiting for a limited edition shoe to get delivered, and even when they can't buy after standing in line for a couple of days, they get in there and they're still hyped. They're like, oh dude, you bought the latest Nike. Oh my God, you got one, right? And they're excited. They're excited about this whole buying event. Granted, they turn around and flip those things for like thousands of dollars, but that's a different business. But it's a buying event. How many people can say that their customers are happy after going through a proposal with them? Any of your customers like, oh man, that was awesome. I'm excited about that. I was so glad to have gone through this with you. Most of them are like, no, I'll think about it. I'll think about that, right? There's no real connection. They don't go, oh, this is exciting. This is an event that I can't wait to experience and tell other people that I experienced this. So we craft them. So actually, I'll go back, tell you a little story. So with the company that I started a long time ago, got in it, got out of it in a few years, which was the swimming pool industry. I moved down to Arizona, and I had a swimming pool, and I didn't know anything about it, other than that you got wet. You just jumped in, oh, have fun, right? So this dude shows up, and he's in cutoffs and ratty shirts, and he says, oh, I'll do this for you, I'll take care of your pool for you, and it costs this much. And me being a business consultant, I started asking him, well, how many customers do you have? How do you do it? And all these different things. And found out he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I was like, oh, that is so awesome, right? Recurring revenue, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you look like that. Like, that is insane. So what I did was I entered that, 2 weeks, I did a bunch of research. 2 weeks later, I invested into the swimming pool industry. And I started a company, and the first thing I did was create professionalism in the industry. Very first thing. The buying event started with a uniform. I was crafting the buying event. The next part of the buying event was to be able to have everybody go into a process, a sales process. I called it a pool audit. I would come in and I would show them all the things that was right with their pool and wrong with their pool. And then I would say, okay, we can fix all that for you. Do you want us to help you with that? And they're like, yeah. And those other guys who are in the cutoff shorts and ratty t-shirts and stuff, those guys would just come in and say, oh, I can do this for you for like $100. Right? That's all. That was their pitch. My pitch was, hey, here's what's good with your pool. Here's what's bad with your pool. We can save you a lot of money in the future. And here's my binder that I'm going to leave with you. After we transact, you'll have a binder, a customer manual. You'll have phone numbers. The whole works. And we had them go through this process. And they were like, oh, this is great. I sold at a 30% margin higher than all my competitors. That 30% was pure profit compared to all my competitors. That's what a buying event can do for you. Here's what's wrong with not having a buying event. Everybody is emotional. We all know it. We know people don't use logic and rationality to make a buying decision. We know it. But we go into a sales process without ever trying to have a thing to contain their emotions. So our buying event has to be able to contain and guide their emotions. That's why kids will stand in line for days and hours to buy sneakers. That's why people will stand in line to buy an Apple product, because they've put a perimeter around their emotions and then guided them to an event. So you have to start using that against that's a terrible way to say it, but it really is. You're taking their emotions and turning it into excitement. Because if you don't, they'll be afraid. They'll be like, oh, I need to think about it. I'm not sure. Let me talk to my partner about it. Let me talk to this other person about it. Let me get back to you in the future. Because they're afraid, because they don't have a buying process. And so then you become at the mercy of their lack of a buying procedure. Okay, theater of the mind. This is the most important part of a buying event, is the theater of the mind. Proposals are a performance. It's performance art, right? I know I'm kind of boring up here. I'm trying to be more exciting, but it is something that you have to be able to perform, and you orchestrate it. You orchestrate the event. As you learn, you're going through the process of learning what people object to, what they complain about, what gets them to not show up for an appointment, all these different things. You start overcoming those things, but then you have to figure out, how do I turn that into theater? How do I make it performance art? How do I get them to be excited about going through this thing? And the important part here, and it's a philosophy I have, is that every interaction you have with a prospect or a customer leaves them better off than they were before they talked to you, before they interacted with you in any way. Are they better off or not? Because you want everyone to walk away happy. You want them to be able to tell other people, oh, I didn't get those sneakers, but oh my God, I can't wait to buy the next one, right? Or, hey, you should go get this. You should go talk to that guy. I didn't buy, but you should still buy, because it was a great process that I went through. They're a great company. All right, it's Q&A time. I know I hit you with a lot, and I really did try. I cut it down way short, and there was so much more. So let's open it up for Q&A, right in the back.
So how do you make them feel good after the sales call or whatever? Is it more of an emotional response, like they feel like they like you and like the conversation, or is it more like more information that you're leaving them with, like, I don't know?
Information, nobody gives a shit about. I don't want information, you don't want information. It's kind of like having a brochure. People want feelings. So do they have a strong feeling when they walk away? Hopefully not a bad one, because I've had a few of those calls where they like click. You remember the old days, the old guys in here, like you like slam down the phone, right? Like you can't really do it so much with your iPhone, right? It doesn't have the same effect, but it's still kind of the same thing where sometimes a call doesn't go right, but what you want is somebody to have a strong emotional response after they've gotten off this call. And you'll know this through the building of rapport when you're actually talking to a prospect and you're gathering information about them and connecting with them as a human being.
So I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
So I know my strength is not relationships or building rapport, stuff like this, yet I would like to build a B2B agency. How would I go about it?
Do you have any friends?
Yeah.
All right, so you do build rapport.
Yeah.
You're also good with girls.
Oh, so if the ladies like you, then your prospects will like you. Really, be human. Like to tell yourself this story, I'm not good at building rapport, when you can see in your entire life that you are good at building rapport. It doesn't make sense. It's not a story that is helping you out. If you've got friends, you've got people who you connect with, you can use that to connect with other people. We're simple. We're monkeys with shoes. Right? It's easy for us to connect if we just try. Even an introvert like me, I put on this facade of being able to just perform in front of you, but I can't wait to get back to my room and hide, right? But I can still try to build a rapport even though I'm an introvert, right? I have friends. I'm connected to human beings, so I can use those same skills that I use to connect with other people to connect with prospects.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of hours building out SOPs over the last 6 months. And I was feeling quite smug about having done that. Less so, like customer service.
Okay, so no entrepreneur should ever make an SOP, ever. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of what you're capable of. You should never do it. Okay, here's why. You bring in people who can actually have an impact in your business, who can think on their own. You get people who are capable, and you say, hey, here's the problem. Go figure it out. And then they figure it out, and then you say, oh, great, awesome, you figured it out. Now write the process, write the SOP, and train another person to do it, to prove that your SOP actually works. Do that in this company, and that's awesome. That is how you do SOPs as an entrepreneur. You never write them yourself. And if you're spending time and and the only time I've ever seen this happen is you're writing SOPs is when you're under, say, a couple million, usually under $1 million. You hear this theory that you have to have systems before team, right? And you start building all these systems. What you're doing is creating friction in your company. You're slowing the company down. You're building an SOP when you should be getting a customer, when you should be building relationships, when you should be building your brand. You're sitting there going on your computer, writing down, oh, this is how you turn on your computer and start writing this thing, right? You're slowing your business down, and that's why you'll end up getting stuck below 7 figures and not be able, or you get into 7 figures and you're still stuck because you're running off of shitty processes you built when you did it yourself.
So with contractor Dynamics, you guys are making all these videos for social. What's the sort of, from the prospective client's perspective, what's the next step after watching your video? Like, do you encourage them to click on the link or anything like that, or is it really just as simple as make loads of videos and eventually they just come knocking on your door?
Yeah, no one ever does that, right? No one ever sees your stuff and contacts you without there being some form of call to action somewhere. So what we do is we sprinkle in commercial messages that are disguised as education into all the stuff that shows our culture. And all the stuff that shows we're actually good at what we do, that we're sitting around as a team working on client projects and stuff like that. And then every once in a while we say, oh, here's how you do X, Y, and Z with building your brand. Click here if you want to get that delivered to you. Or, hey, if you want to talk about that, why don't you just give us a call? We spread those in, and we test. We're always testing different calls to action. There is no one magic call to action, especially on social media, because, well, most of it isn't ever going to get seen. You know, even when you spend money to get it seen, it still doesn't get seen by somebody looking at it. They don't read it. They don't watch the whole video. But eventually, you'll get that right call to action that hits at the right time. That's why volume first, strategy second. All right, right here.
Related questions now in terms of the videos. I'm interested by targeting. You've got a list of dream clients, B2B business, very specific decision makers, and you've got Facebook, Instagram targeting, which is more designed for B2C in the way, and there's ways you can pixel people and stuff like that. But how are you going from market research of these 50 businesses, these CEOs, to targeting them accurately with Instagram? So it just seems like they just came across it, of course.
Right. So that's the beautiful part is that one of the things that we learned is that humans are humans, and just because they're a CEO of a big company, they're still they're still posting pictures of their kids' little league, right? They're still interacting on social media. They're still being just as dumb as we are when we're on social media. They're sitting there scrolling for hours. So we find we're not usually able to find a personal email, which is usually how those accounts are set up. So what we try to do is get a pixeled email to them, right? We try to, and if we can't get it to the top, we try to get it to someone in that company, and they click on it, and they start seeing these messages over and over again, and then they go, oh, I need to share that with the actual decision maker in this company. And that's how those bigger companies came to us. We couldn't get in front of the top people in those companies. We tried, but we couldn't, but we were able to get in front of the other people.
Is the cold email element that you're
As part of it, yes.
and you're using that as a pixel to get them?
For the hardest people on our hit list, for the hardest ones. But the rest of them, just the volume approach has worked miraculously. Yep. Right here.
So I have a quick question. If you could elaborate a little bit more on what you're saying with KPIs. First off, the manner in which those face-to-face meetings should happen, and then also with the creation of the actual KPIs, do you feel similarly to creating SOPs wherein you shouldn't go and create all the KPIs directly for the employees, and they should be maybe brainstorming some of their own KPIs?
Okay, the only way your employee can brainstorm KPIs is if they understand the vision, right? Lead first, manage second. So if they don't understand what their job does, their roles and responsibilities truly are, not the activities that they do on the daily basis, but what the impact is for the company. If they can't comprehend the impact for the company, then they can't make their own KPIs. Guess what? If you don't understand the impact of their job on your future and your vision, you can't do it either, right? That's why most of us have shitty KPIs, or we have a whole bunch of them and we don't really know what they mean. So what we need to figure out is what do we want to accomplish and how are we going to get there? We start leading towards it, and then we start, oh, let's try these KPIs. And this is the reality of building a company, is it's haphazard. You pick out these KPIs that you think are going to be important, and then, because KPIs are only a proxy for the actual result, right? So we try them because we're trying to get an accurate representation so that we can make future predictions off of those KPIs. So what we will we'll create a bunch of KPIs, and then we'll thin them back to the ones that are actually important. And if you've got really good people, which you should have, if you have really good people, that back and forth, that face-to-face culture building, you will be able to analyze those numbers. You'll be able to go, oh yeah, that really means what we think it means, right? Sometimes we can get into like a little yes culture and screw that up, but what we can do is figure those things out over time. There is no instant solution to KPIs, unfortunately, right? Okay, so we're told we're supposed to leave. It's over. Please, walk out if you like, but I will sit and answer questions as long as y'all want. So, and if I get kicked out of this room, oh yeah, oh, sorry. Thank you. So, if you want to get the manual, here's how you're going to do it. You're going to follow me on Instagram, and you're going to DM me, Success Manual, and give me your email address. And over the next few weeks, I will drop you the training on those 10 little departments, right? Those 10 departments that I told you about. You will get training on those and how to use them better, all right? So thank you all for attending. Anyone else who wants to have? Right. Anyone else who wants to ask questions, I'm more than happy to do so. I'm going to kill the mic and the camera, and I'll stick around. When they kick us out of the room, I'll answer questions outside if you like.